Today on Politically Insane, we will talk about Bidenflation and how inflation has really been caused by the Biden administration. It's no doubt, and we can kind of take a look at numbers and see how the inflation has really gone up a lot just within the past year. We will also talk about how a Texas judge blocks the investigation of child abuse, and we will talk about that child abuse as well as Kaepernick and how he wants back into the NFL so badly, and he has been training for so long, but he thinks they're racist. So we'll kind of take a look at that and so much more today on Politically Insane. All right, before we get started today, I do want to remind everybody if you want to support Politically Insane, make sure to go over to our shop. You can check out our merchandise shop. It is politicallyinsane.us/shop. We've got so many cool shirts. We've got tumblers, all kinds of stuff. If you go over there and check that out, we've got a lot of cool merchandise. I encourage you to check it out and help support us here at Politically Insane. We're doing everything we can. And a huge reminder for everyone, we are trying to keep our live stream on Saturdays up and going, but we might be changing that over to Thursdays. Stay tuned for that. But we are doing live streams, and you can always check us out on Apple Podcasts and listen to our podcasts on Apple, really Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. So make sure to go over there and give us a 5-star rating to help us out. But as we get into the topics today, we want to talk about this inflation and how inflation has become a huge topic of discussion here really recently because we've seen the gas prices really going up. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But overall, prices have gone up so much since Biden has taken office. And it is insane to look at the prices and see everything. Of course, many of us, again, we've been shocked just by gas prices. I recently had to go and get a car that would get me better gas mileage than my truck that only got 15 miles to the gallon because it was getting ridiculous. Where that truck, when I first got it, it cost me $65 or so to fill up. And that was pretty reasonable for a truck that holds 30 gallons. But then now it's costing closer to 90 to $100. And I've even gotten up to 110, $115 to fill up a truck. And it's just, it's incredible to see these prices soaring higher than many of us have seen in our lifetime. Really, probably all of us have seen in our lifetime. But the core price index, which is something that measures the price of goods, it shows that the food and energy increase has been increased by over 0.5% just in February alone. So we take a look at last month in February, and our prices have gone up. That's a significant raise. I know 0.5% doesn't sound like much, but when you take the overall price of goods and bumping that up, even just a 0.5%, you see that very much. And that's just showing just between food and energy. But we see that in February, it has been incredible. And again, just so everyone knows, all of our sources are at politicallyinsane.us. We will always post our sources. And if you don't see sources, make sure to click the contact us page so we can make sure that we get our sources up there. I know I've had issues in the past where it didn't pop up properly for some people, and there was just a bug that I had to fix on my end. But we can see these prices overall in America are just slowly increasing. And again, 0.5% isn't much, but when we see that just in 1 month alone, that's a big increase. And you take that over 12 months, and we've had other months that have been even higher than that. And food prices reportedly grew 7.9%. So almost 8% on a year over year basis as of February. So we look at February and it's grown almost 8% just for food alone. So those of you who have families, I know somebody who has 11 kids, and you think of people who have families, they have to work even harder where their wages probably haven't really gone up much because this inflation has been happening so fast that you haven't even had any sort of raise to compensate you for the price of living. And it's all going up so quickly. But again, we see almost an 8% raise on just food alone. And the BLS reports that energy prices have soared 25.6% on year on end. 25.6% year on end as of February. This is incredibly high prices that we're seeing. And all of this is because of big decisions from the Biden administration. And of course, a lot of this, I think, is rolling over from the way that our government overall, and I'm not going to blame just one administration or even one state or the other, but it seems that overall our government has really done such a horrible job in how we have handled the entire COVID crisis that we haven't gotten enough hands on deck. And it just seems that ever since COVID happened, all of the demand for things have gone up. And it seems that the overall workers, as far as how many workers are helping to get these goods back on the shelves, it seems that that number hasn't increased, where the demand has been at a higher increase, because in the beginning of the pandemic, so many people were out buying everything off the shelves, and they all got taken off the shelves, and they never upped the production and gotten more things on the shelves. And we see this constantly, and it's still attacking us, and it's attacking us even more today. And so this has been 2 years now that we've been going through this crisis, this pandemic that really should have never been as big as it was. But we see this, and it has just been growing, and the prices have been going up. And overall, we haven't had enough inventory put back on the shelves. But we see, just looking at gas prices alone, that's one of the energy prices that many of us, really everyone, is affected by. And usually with economy, if you look at gas prices, you can see how the overall economy is rolling, because gas prices affect so much. Really, just the overall oil industry, it affects everything. You think about those who are maybe just making simple deliveries. If they're delivering to a store or delivering to a restaurant or whatever the delivery is, you have to get things shipped in. Therefore, that's got to go through the oil industry. If the oil industry isn't doing well, then all of those goods are going to cost more to be shipped in, which then increases the price on those shipping. And we just see a chain reaction, because now everything is being increased. So overall, you can look at gas prices and see quite a bit of the economy, because if the gas prices are raising significantly, the rest of the economy usually is going to follow pretty close after. But gas prices really today are ranging, and I guess this is even some research that I did maybe about half a week ago or so. But gas prices are ranging close to around $3.63 up to $5.34 across the nation. I know here in Ohio, where I'm living, we're looking at prices over $4. We're looking at 4.10, 4.15, 4.20. That's the prices that I'm seeing range here in Ohio, and we usually don't have too bad of gas prices, but I know some places are slightly lower, some places are even higher than that, and it makes you scratch your head. But you look at these overall gas prices being between 363 to 534, an average right around 406 across the nation. These gas prices are incredibly high. Anyone who has to pay over $4 sees how much that hurts your paycheck and hurts your overall overall financing. You can see how that really affects a lot. But here on this chart, you can see that comparing to back in 2020, when Biden first took office, we can see an average of about $2.17. So we see an incredible increase from $2.17 on average across the nation to now, today, roughly about $4.06. And again, all sources will be at politicallyinsane.us. But we see almost a $2 increase overall in gas, and those who understand gas prices, which I would assume if you're listening to this show, you do understand how that works. And per gallon, that adds up a lot. Like I mentioned, my truck that I had, it cost over $90 easily to fill up a tank of gas if I run it down, which, as much as I drive for work, I do run it down quite a bit, and it started costing up towards $100 and over $100 at some points. And it's just incredible to see this huge increase, because now, for someone like me who commutes a lot for work, as much as I drive, I'm filling that gas tank up just about every week. Really, it's going to be every week and then some. So, you take that $100 every week compared to what I mentioned before being about $65, being close to a $40 increase per week. You take that times four, you got $160 per month that you're spending extra on gas prices. These gas prices are soaring, and you can try to say that it's not completely the current president, that, a lot of this could have taken over from the previous administration. And yes, some of that can be true when you start to see fluctuations of maybe up to 50 cents, I would say. That'd just be my rough estimation. And I think that's even being kind of generous towards the Biden administration. But overall, when you start to see a close to $2 increase, that's when you start to see that it absolutely is the decisions. When we take a look at just a huge pipeline that is running through the center of America, the Keystone Pipeline, it's the largest pipeline in America. And it's enough to where we never have to go outside of the US to get our own oil, to get our own gas, to get all of these things. If we have that Keystone Pipeline open, the Keystone XL, we don't have to export any kind of gas, any kind of oil into our country anymore. That's plenty enough for our oil industry to support our country and then some. We could support other countries for a long time. But to look at all of this and to see how these gas prices have gone up so much, it's incredibly it's alarming to many of us in America, probably most of us, if not all of us in America, because again, it doesn't just affect those who are driving a gas vehicle. It affects really most, if not all, of the economy. So many different industries are affected by gas prices going up, and especially when they've taken such a large leap. It's incredibly alarming to look at all of this. Overall, prices on common goods have gone up, and it's been a very large upward trend happening just in year to date. And if you look at a lot of these prices and Breitbart.com, they call this Bidenflation. That's what I have been calling it ever since seeing this. But Bidenflation, we're seeing this inflation going up quite a bit. And year to date, we're seeing a lot of these prices go up. We look over at ground beef going up about 13.6% in the past year, steaks going up about almost 17%, bacon going up just over 17%. Pork chops going up 13%. These are everyday items. These are for anyone who cooks at home. These are items that are going up. And if you're going to a restaurant to go get food from them, guess what? That's going to be raising the prices at your restaurant as well. We'll get to that in just a moment as well. But chicken up about 13.2%. Fresh fish going up about 10%. Milk going up about 12.5%. Coffee up 10%. That hurts me. I'm a huge coffee drinker. For those who know me, that hurts. Fresh fruit going up over 10%. We look at all of these things, and there's a long list. Again, all these sources will be at politicallyinsane.us. I won't go through all of it, but all of these are on such an upward trend. All of these have gone up several points in percentage just within the last year. And it absolutely is because of a lot of the importing decisions from our government and from the Biden administration. And I don't know what argument you can use to combat the fact that it is from the Biden administration, that it is Biden's choices. And I don't like saying Biden's choices because he's old and senile and doesn't even know where he is half the time. But I like to blame this on the administration because overall, as a collective whole, teamwork makes the dream work, right? But in this sense, it's really screwing the rest of the country. It's screwing the whole country. Looking over at bread, that's another big one. Bread and cereal both up about 7.5% year on end. We look at all of these, and all of these prices are going up incredibly. And like I mentioned, it's not just going to affect those who cook at home and are going to the grocery store to buying these at home because you really can't go out to eat and try to save money. And that should be common sense to kind of look at the overall price it takes to go out to eat compared to if you were able to cook your own meals. And especially if you food prep, which is something that we like to do, but we just don't do it very often because we're too lazy. But if you food prep, that's where a lot of these prices are. But going out to eat, fast food prices are up almost 7%, about 6.8%. Full service restaurant prices are going up year on end. They're up about 7.5%, so close to 8% again. And even vending machines, if you go to a vending machine and check out the prices there, which again, I think that's ridiculous to try to say that you could save money by going to vending machines and trying to get food there. But even vending machine prices are up over 5%, almost 6%. So we see all of these prices constantly going up, and these prices are not on any sort of downward trend. They are on a constant upward trend. and it's very alarming. And it's something that all of us see, and all of us are being affected by these prices. And it absolutely is a lot of the decisions from the Biden administration. And I think we might be talking about that on this week's live stream. If you check that out on Saturday, it's this Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I think we will keep it at that time this week. We've taken a couple of weeks off, and I apologize for that for anyone who might like to tune into those. But I encourage you to check us out this Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, even over on Twitch if you like Twitch. We just do that for an extra reach out. But go ahead and check it out there. We'll talk a little bit more about these prices and how they're going up, and we will relate it more to the Biden administration and some of their decisions and what they've done to really cause these prices to go up. And again, I think we'll go further into detail on gas prices and seeing how much of those gas prices are absolutely this administration's fault. But this is something that needs to be noticed and needs to be stopped. But I don't have any answers right now. Maybe we'll try to look up some answers that we can do, some things to maybe help you, because I think overall you really can't do much about the economy, but something to help you. I think that's something that we've been planning to try to do on the live stream this week. So make sure to check that out again. Again, that's Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will try to do that this week, especially for this topic alone. But we do have to look for ways to save money, because we're not going to find it by hoping that this administration can do any better, because it's on an upward trend and it's not looking like it's going down anytime soon, especially with the decisions that they keep on making. So this is just something that's going to keep on going up, and we have to just pray and hope that the current government can try to twist this around, and hopefully our local government can do something to try to help out. But overall, this is something that we're just going to have to deal with. And what is it? Maybe another 3 years, is it? Uh, it's too long, 2.5 years or so. We just have to hope that we can make it through. So let's try to make it through this administration, try to get it to the end, and hopefully we can get an administration that can start to bring these prices down, because these prices are soaring and just constantly growing. All right, moving on to a Texas judge who blocks an investigation that was done, and CBS News reports that a judge in Texas has temporarily blocked the state from investigating parents who obtain gender affirming medical care for their transgender children. Last month, Governor Greg Abbott signed an order that was directing the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services and other state agencies to open the investigations, calling such treatments child abuse, which, for any of those who can agree with me on the whole transgender movement and how we have been trying to reach out and try to make this open to children and giving them the opportunity to choose what gender they want to be, it's all ridiculous. But it absolutely is child abuse, because you're supposed to, as a parent, you don't tell your child that they can do whatever they want, because you have to tell them no. You have to make the decisions for them, because they are a child. They don't have the cognitive understanding to be able to make these decisions themselves. That's why they have a parent. That's why you are the parent, so that you can tell them no, that's not what's good for you. You can't simply tell them that they can eat candy for dinner or that they can eat cake for breakfast, because it's not healthy for them. You tell them to eat their fruits and their vegetables. You make sure that they eat healthier foods, and maybe give them some good fresh meat and pastas, whatever it is. You don't let them eat McDonald's constantly, like they would probably choose to do if it was their own decision. The same with gender changing assignments. These are just ridiculous. It's very obvious how this is destructive to their physical health, let alone their mental health, and you're letting them make a decision that is not something that they can just easily reverse. It's not that they can just all of a sudden go back to being a boy when they were a girl. When they are born a girl, that is what they are meant to be. Stop trying to change the true facts. This is ridiculous, and it is child abuse, because you are allowing them to make a decision that is going to change their lives, not just part of their life, their entire life. And when you look into the overall depression rate and suicide rate, that's the word I was looking for. The suicide rate among children who end up going through these gender changing assignments, it's in it's very sad to see the rates that depression and really just all kinds of psychological issues that happen to these children, let alone the physical abuse that's going to happen to these children. So, anyways, the judge goes against it and blocks the state from investigating these parents who are going through this. And the district judge, Amy Clark Meacham, issued a temporary injunction on Abbott's order. So this judge here in Texas, she blocks the order after a family with transgender teen sued the governor, saying that the order violated the constitutional rights of transgender children and their families. The judge scheduled a trial over Abbott's order to begin on July 11th, according to the Associated Press. So, first of all, my question is, what are the constitutional rights given to transgender children and their families? Because that's what the governor is sued for here. And I have gone through the Constitution trying to find where it shows the rights for transgender children and families, and I'm not finding it. I'm not sure what those constitutional rights are. If anything, it's I don't know. Backing up to the main argument, the main thing that it's being fought here is that it is child abuse. I think I think the attorney general of Texas, Ken Paxton. I think he's absolutely right. And whenever we look at this and we see everything that's going on in this child's life, I could go over this over and over again, but it absolutely is child abuse, and I think that we'll speak more on that again, probably upcoming in several episodes. Many several man, I cannot speak today, and I'm a podcast host. That's the one thing I ought to be doing, but it's just ridiculous, and there is no constitutional rights for transgender children and their families to allow a parent to abuse their child is not constitutional. It's not a constitutional right that they're given. But I think Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, I think he said it best when he mentioned this is quotes from him. He says, procedures and treatments when performed on children can legally constitute child abuse. And it's absolutely right. The critics of the order claim that the investigations amount to terrorizing transgender children to their families. They mention that the judge's decisions reflects the recognition that the governor and department circumvent the legislative process and started a rule that terrorized families who love, support, and seek the best care for transgender children. And this is coming from a man named Paul Castillo, an attorney with the Lambada Legal, which represents the victims along with the ACLU. And I use victims very loosely. That's just what was written in the article. But they're trying to say that this is some sort of terrorism. It's terrorizing these children and their families. Because again, I want to go over what they said here, that they're terrorizing these families who love, support, and seek the best care for these transgender children. I think if you love your child and you support your child and you're seeking the best care for them, you're not going to allow them to go through these transgender procedures to begin with. You're not going to let them change their gender. That's ridiculous. And again, it is child abuse to allow your child to do something that is going to harm their bodies. It's ridiculous. To see this going on, to see that children are allowed, and in some scenarios, I'm not going to say that all of these scenarios are, but some scenarios these children are kind of tricked and pressed into this. It's absolutely child abuse. This needs to be spoken out against, and I hope that this this whole court case goes through and the truth can be seen about this, because the truth is it is absolutely child abuse. It is absolutely completely really terrorizing the children by allowing them to go through these procedures. Not terrorizing them by looking into and investigating what they've done to their children. It's sickening to see this stuff going through and to see everything. The whole transgender movement, and really just the LGBTQ plus, alphabet, that entire movement. I think whenever we look into that movement and seeing what they're doing and seeing not just what they're doing to the children, but to our society as a whole, it's all ridiculous and it needs to be spoken out against. That's something that I know I am going to be attacking. I support Matt Walsh a lot. For those who have heard of him over at the Daily Wire, he's doing a lot to attack this movement, and I appreciate, and that's why I support him so much because he's doing so much. This is just one of the things that I agree with him so well on, and he's doing a lot to try to attack, and he's not being shy about it, and that's something that we need to do as everyday citizens and people of the society. Before our society crumbles, we need to stand up against this movement, and especially when we look into the transgender movement, especially, let alone the LGBTQ plus alphabet movement in general. There's just so much about this, and it needs to be spoken out against. It needs to be attacked. We need to stand up and fight harder against this. For those who have followed Colin Kaepernick and supported him, you would probably be just as confused as those of us who have criticized him for everything that he's done. Just starting off and kneeling during the national anthem, which caused a lot of traction into asking him why, and it grew into a big ordeal. And of course, he's being absolutely racist in all of the comments he's ever said about any of this stuff. But he has really started a huge movement that has really it's been a very dangerous movement against really our law enforcement as a whole. He's attacked our law enforcement and attacked them as a whole instead of attacking maybe specific officers who have done bad. He's attacked our law enforcement and the blue in general, and he's done so in a way that's been completely destructive to our law enforcement. And he's been starting a movement that has led us to the point of trying to defund the police. There's been so much that he has done that has been completely racist. It has been completely against his country. And really, it's been very hypocritical. It's been very contradicting because you look at him, he is a half black man who was, I guess I'm not sure about half black, but he is, we'll say he is a black American. He is, but I believe he was adopted by white people. I know his parents are white, but they have done so much for him. They have given him all of the resources to they are a wealthy family. They've given him all of the resources to be drafted into the NFL, getting up to that point, going through college and being recruited into college, getting into the NFL, and even winning a Super Bowl. So, he's made it a long ways, and he's made a lot of money from the Super Bowl and from all of this racist talk and talking against the police. But anyways, one of the most recent things that Colin Kaepernick has done, because he loves to point out any kind of quote unquote racism that he can, he wants to point out, he had a recent documentary showing how the NFL and just the draft process in general, and he's been talking out against the NFL and how they're racist, that the way that they choose players is racist, that it's much like choosing slaves back in slavery days, and it's all nonsense, and he knows it's nonsense. Anyone who follows him knows that it's nonsense. Anyone in the NFL knows it's nonsense. He's not in the NFL because he's a parasite to any team that he's on, and I mean that because he just starts things up with all of those around him. He's just bad. He's bad for any organization, and any organization would be crazy to take him onto their team because of the things that he could do to really kind of turn against anyone on the team, not just white people or black people. He could turn on anyone, and it's a very dangerous thing to have a man like this on your team. But he calls out the NFL for being racist, and even though he calls them out for being racist, it doesn't stop him from training. He put out a tweet. This is back on March 13th. He says, "For the past 5 years, I've been working out and staying ready in case an opportunity to play presented itself. I'm ready. I'm sorry. I'm really grateful to my trainer who I've been throwing to all this time, but man, do I miss throwing to professional route runners. Who's working? I will pull up. So he's been working for the past 5+ years since he's been out of the NFL. And honestly, he's a mediocre quarterback. He in his prime, he did pretty well. He started off kind of turning heads and showing that he's a decent quarterback, but when he stepped into the role of a full-time quarterback, he is extremely athletic. So that was one thing that a lot of people turned their heads to because you think of guys who really kind of changed the game for athleticism in the quarterback position, maybe guys like maybe I think Joe Montana showed a little bit of that, but I think really more recent, I think you look at Mike Vick, I think he was one of the big turning points for that. And even leading up into today's league, you can even see more of that in guys like Lamar Jackson. And I think Russell Wilson was a big one for that. You can look all over the league and see that that's becoming a big trend. And so, even back with Colin Kaepernick, I think that was something that turned heads when he came into the league. That he was one of these kind of newer style quarterbacks that was athletic, but as a quarterback, he's not a good decision maker. He doesn't have that great of an arm, and just overall, he's not a good leader. Like I mentioned, I think he's a parasite to the team. He can start up a lot of bad things and it spreads. And he's just not a guy that you want on your team for publicity reasons, for just overall leadership reasons, but let alone his playing. I just don't. I think a lot of teams look at him and see that he's not a good quarterback. But of course, he believes that he's not in the league because of racism. But even though the league is racist, he's still begging the NFL to come back. He still wants so badly to come back. And I find that extremely contradictory of his entire movement. And it just goes to show that he doesn't believe a single word that he said the entire time that he's been on this long rant. So looking at all of this, I think looking at Colin Kaepernick, he is ridiculous. He's a man that I hope never sees the NFL again. And hopefully everything that he started in the NFL can work its way out because we're seeing a lot of what he started working its way into the NFL. And that's where we saw a lot of division in the NFL. We saw division with the teams. We're seeing a lot more of that with what's his name, Brian Flores. Is that his name? The coach down in Miami. I'm drawing a blank on his name exactly at the moment, but he's starting a lot of that, very similar to what Colin Kaepernick did. And looking at all of it, and looking at even what Colin Kaepernick is doing here, you can tell that it's just absolute nonsense. It was nonsense from the beginning. It's still nonsense, and it needs to be stopped. It needs to be put. Really needs to be stopped. It needs to be put to an end. It's ridiculous, but we know by looking at this that Colin Kaepernick is a liar. He doesn't believe anything that he says. That's all we have today for today. Thank you all so much for watching, for listening, for supporting Politically Insane. God bless. Oh, hey there. You're still here. Okay, well, if you made it this far, you might as well just go ahead and hit that share button. Go ahead and share this episode on social media with your friends, your family, whomever you think wants to hear this episode. Just go ahead and share it. It's a great way to help us. You can also help support Politically Insane by going over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and giving us a 5-star rating. It's a great way to get us up towards the top of the charts. And you can go over to politicallyinsane.us/shop and you can find all of our merchandise in the store there. Go check it out. We've got a lot of cool things, lots of tumblers and mugs and t-shirts, and it will be constantly growing. So you can support us there and also rep Politically Insane. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for all of our updates, and go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rumble channel, wherever it is that you are watching right now. Or if you're just listening, do whatever it is that you're supposed to do on the podcast platforms. Anyways, we thank you so much for watching, for listening, for supporting Politically Insane. God bless.